Welcome, everyone, to our Salon number 80, the Q&A about the maternal gift economy with Genevieve Vaughan and Frieda Werden in the Maternal Gift Economy Breaking Through series, hosted by the International Feminists for a Gift Economy. I'm going to give short introductions for Genevieve and Frieda. Visit our website at maternalgifteconomymovement.org for more information about how you can contact our presenters via their websites. We're really thrilled to actually have this format and allow Genevieve to speak freely and have Frieda, who has her own radio program, interviewing Jen. Genevieve Vaughan is an independent researcher who lives part-time in Italy and part-time in Texas. She created a foundation for a compassionate society that closed its doors in 2005 and founded the Temple of Sekhmet in the Nevada desert in 1992, which continues on today as a gift practice and a place of worship, ritual, and celebration, and a place to practice the gift economy. Her books are Forgiving, a feminist criticism of exchange, Homo Donans, and The Gift in the Heart of Language. She's also co-edited a couple of other books, which you can find out more about on the website. The International Feminists for Gift Economy, many of them have written in a volume that is the Canadian Women's Study Journal dedicated to the maternal gift economy that came out in 2020. You can go to their website and actually download many different articles about the gift economy there. Frieda Werden is co-founder and series producer of Wings, Women's International News Gathering Service, which provides women's voices and issues covered to non-commercial radio. The project started with a contact list from a radio women's meeting called by Genevieve Vaughan at the Third World Conference on Women in Nairobi in 1985. We are really honored and thrilled to have Frieda here and grateful that she continues to do her radio station, which still provides many, many wonderful programs for women around the world. So with that, I'm going to hand the mic over to Frieda and Genevieve and let them begin. And please remember, you at any time can put your question in the chat, and questions will be answered at the end of the interview. Thank you so much.
Hi, Jen. It's always a pleasure to see you. And Zoom is making this possible, even though we're half the world away almost.
Yeah, great to see you too.
I just had my breakfast and I think you just had your supper, but here we are. So anyway, for the audience, I'd like to introduce Jen as mother and midwife of many ideas and projects around the world. But perhaps her eldest concept, nearly as old as her first daughter, is that of the maternal gift economy. Jen, I recall you saying that this concept was born in contradiction to a philosophical concept espoused by your then husband. And I'm wondering if you'll tell the listeners the story of how the maternal gift economy was conceived.
Thank you. Thanks, Frieda. Well, yeah, I married an Italian philosophy professor when I was 23 and moved to Italy. And I had already been a pretty, let's say, radical opposer of various issues in the United States and going to college and so on. And the first, basically first thing he got invited to do a few months after we were married was to make kind of a, together with some other professors, to use Marx's analysis of the commodity and money and apply that to language, how language is formed and what it is. And so I really got fascinated by that. And I studied Marx and tried to understand how that could be. And my husband wrote several things about it. And after a few years, I had my daughters, and I realized that my daughters were learning to talk, and they didn't know how to use money. They didn't know how to make the market work. They didn't even know what it was. So how could it be that the market and money were the basis, or even exchange, were the basis of language? It had to be the other way around. And so I realized that what was happening was that they were learning from a way that I was treating them that was without exchange. I was not exchanging anything with them. I was not making them give me something in order for me to give them their lunch and that kind of thing. And so it was free. What I was doing was free, and they were learning it, learning to speak, learning life, let's see, in that mode, and not in the exchange mode where you have to give in order to get back. And that is the mode that the whole economy is run on. And I knew that Native people didn't actually have markets in the United States. They had, but they had gifting, but they could also speak, and they didn't have any. They didn't use money and so on. So that was for me a confirmation of what I began to think of also as the gift economy, because I had also read about the gift economy as studied by anthropologists, about the Kula ring in the Pacific, and various different kinds of cultures that had gifting as their main interaction. And so it proved to me that there was this other way of doing things, of gifting. And then I began to study it more, and studied what the child psychologists were saying about the development of children with their mothers, and how that kind of interaction happened. And it gave me a kind of a confirmation of the actual way that children and mothers interact in an economy that is not based on quid pro quo. So that's how it came about. And then I got so fascinated by it all that I've been working on it ever since. And I'm still finding it the most fascinating thing that I can think of, so. And it's not only fascinating, it's important because it's an alternative to the way we think in the market-based society. And it's based on women and mothers and mothering and the model of mothering, not just the what the mother does of care or her duty. It's actually on the interaction and what the child receives of how the world is from being cared for unilaterally by somebody else.
Yeah. I was just looking at something, this isn't in my script, but I'll just mention it. There was something that appeared on Facebook recently, a quote from the Dalai Lama, who talked about compassion, and that the child learns compassion from what the mother gives to the child's needs. And I thought, well, that sounds a lot like the gift economy. And but it seems that there is often a problem with communicating that the maternal gift economy to people. There seems to be a lot of resistance to that from probably all other kinds of things that they've learned, like this exchange economy and so forth. But I've noted that there's another scholar who works in a similar field, Heidi Gutner-Abendroth, and her area of study, she calls it, is matriarchal societies. And in that case, there's a widespread inclination in the audience to think that matriarchy is just a reversal of patriarchy. This is what they have in their minds. So the mother as boss is replacing the father as boss. And she keeps having to explain that the archy in matriarchy doesn't come from the root word for ruling, but comes from a root meaning from the beginning. And in a world where language is saturated with patriarchal ideology, history, and experience, that's proving to be a really hard sell. So in the case of your area of study, there are 4 terms about which most people in at least Western societies have both preconceived notions and emotions. And I thought we'd address these in order today. Okay. And these terms are: 1, maternal; 2, gift; 3, economy; and 4, movement. So, so it's an entire maternal gift economy movement that needs to be interpreted in the proper light. So let's see, before we got this salon together, you and others reached out to potential audience members, as I understand it, and gathered some questions about maternal gift economy. And they seem to sort themselves out into these 4 terms. So I thought I'd maybe read some of those questions for you to answer. But you might like to start with a brief definition of a term they are asking about. So for starters, what do you think of when you use the term maternal?
I'm thinking of unilateral giving, unilateral care, because an infant can't give you back an equivalent for what you've given them. So it has to be unilateral. And our exchange economy, our capitalist economy, the market, is based on quid pro quo, on giving something in order to get something back. But the mother doesn't do that. It's a unilateral gift, because the child cannot give her back another gift in return. And even if the mother is doing it because she hopes that the child will take care of her in her old age, the child doesn't know that. For the child, it's unilateral. And the same if the child has a nanny. They don't know that the nanny's being paid to do the work. So it's a time of kind of the Garden of Eden when you're little, and you are receiving this unilateral gift that satisfies your needs, and the motherer has to figure out what those needs are, because you can't even tell her what they are when you're a baby. Although mothers do learn different kinds of cries that the babies have and all that kind of thing. And they figure out that, that if it's cold and the baby doesn't have a blanket on top of her, then she's probably crying because she's cold and you need to put the blanket on. So, so that I think is what mothering is. And I use the word also as motherer. I call that action the action of motherers, because it doesn't have to be the actual birth mother. It can be anybody, a father, or another child, an older child, or like Hillary Clinton said, a whole village. And there are whole villages that do that, do the mothering in other more indigenous societies than our own. And so mothering is really a general principle, and it's a principle of unilateral giving, and babies learn that from being mothered. That has a pattern to it of finding the need, understanding the need, and satisfying the need without a recompense.
Wow. Yeah. So a lot of the questions that people had around this term mother uh, were their discomfort with the idea that you had to be a mother to do that. And in a way, you've answered that. So people say, well, I'm not a mother. Can I be part of the maternal gift economy movement? Or I don't feel maternal, or I don't want to have children. And then there's some who talk about mothers that were not perfect mothers. They denied them the help that they needed or protection and so forth. And let's see. And then some people say, "Oh, I'm adopted. I don't know who my mother is." And I think, and then people who were born in a war zone and all their family was killed wants to know where they fit. But somebody must have mothered them, eh? Or they wouldn't be alive.
That's right.
So yeah. Anyhow, I think you kind of answered this about the relationship with the child is not an exchange, and also that anyone can be a mother. But do you think that this mothering principle is something that is actually very widespread in our society? Or if not, why not?
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's everywhere. It's underneath. We don't see it. Um, and it actually forms a kind of a logic that underlies a lot of the things that we do, like throwing and catching a ball. That's like giving a gift, it's the same thing. There's a trajectory that goes from one person to the other. And a lot of the metaphors that we use are the things that we describe in terms of metaphors like the path to a goal is a way of making oneself the gift that goes from here to there. There's a giving point and a receiving point. The path is the trajectory between the two. And there are many different things. Breathing, for example, breathing in is receiving a gift, and breathing out is giving a gift of to the trees and the plants. So that is, and your heart beats and takes your blood to nurture your cells and comes back to get reoxygenated in your heart, in your lungs. There's just gifting is everywhere if you look to see it. So and I've tried to write down a number of these ways of seeing gifts in the things that we do, that underlie what we do, like you give the vegetables to the pot and the water. You give the water and the vegetables to the pot, and then you give the fire to the pot. And then the fire warms and then cooks the vegetables, and then you put it in the plate, the dish to give to the family. So there's these chains of giving also.
So you're basically saying that everything that happens in the world, or almost can be interpreted in terms of giving and receiving.
Yeah.
And even bad things. What about bad things that people do to each other? I think you have a theory about that. Hitting? Tell that.
Yeah. Well, in a mother-based society, and with mother-based values, maternal-based values, these are not the bad things of that kind don't generally happen. But in a patriarchy, what happens is that there is a transformation of giving into hitting, for example. So you give a blow from one person to the other, just as if you would give a gift. And instead, it's not a gift, it's harm. And so and there is a domination of not of relating in order to give and receive, but in order to dominate. And these are two ways of doing things: the patriarchal interpretation and the maternal, or the matriarchal or maternal interpretation of life, basically.
Wow. Okay. So moving along through our short list, the second term is gift. And I know that you have argued against parts of what some of the best known theorists of gift have to say. For example, when they link the term gift to exchange. And I wonder if you'd say a little bit about that contention that you have with them. Yes.
Well, yeah, it's the anthropologists talk about gift exchange, and there is gift exchange in a number of cultures, and that is a sort of let's say, a precursor, you could say, of commodity exchange, and it is requiring a gift to be given after the first gift. But I say that the first gift is already creates a human relation. That is, somebody sees the other person's need and they give them something to satisfy it. And that already creates a bond between the two. Then that other person can, in their turn, give a gift back. But that's not necessary. That's not an exchange like the commodity exchange. It's not really a quid pro quo. It's an honoring of the principle of giving itself, and of what the mothering person has done, the first giver has done. And then there are gift cycles and circles where one gives to another and the other gives to the next and the other gives to the next. And that unites a social group with each other, because there's like a logic, a syllogism. If A gives to B and B gives to C, then A gives to C. So there's the continuity of the gift that goes through the second person to the third person to the fourth, and that so that everybody is giving to each other, and that unites the whole group as the gifts go around.
I remember you saying something about that giving and receiving is a complete act, and that the act of receiving is active. It's not passive. So that's a really different idea. You receive it by using it. And I think often about gifts that people give each other that can't be used. But I'm not sure, maybe perhaps it's just symbolic or something, but yeah, I really liked that idea that it is a complete in itself. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. And it's really kind of like cognition, you're receiving information and you know it. And so you've gotten a way of having received it, and then you have it in your mind. And the same as when you've received a gift and you use it, that's where you have it in your life. So that's a kind of completion where that person has given you something personal of their own, or something that they think that you need or want, and that creates a bond between you.
Yes. This is a side note, but what about when somebody gives you something that you really don't want? Is that a gift? I mean, you have a suggestion?
I don't know. They probably think you might want it, or maybe they just want to get rid of it. I don't know. But you can always pass it on to somebody else.
Thank you for that advice. Yes. Okay, so people have asked some questions about your use of the term gift. Let me just kind of run through them. Okay, so they wanted to ask what you mean by gift. One definition is a thing given willingly to someone without payment, a present. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, I think the gift economy idea is based on is recognizing a need. So you recognize the need and you give something to satisfy the need without asking for a payback. And that is complete in itself, the gift, the intention, and the giving and the receiving. So that already creates a relationship between the two people.
Right. So we've already answered the next question, which was how does gifting fit with receiving? And the next question was how does gift differ from exchange? You've already explained that.
Mm-hmm.
And then somebody said, my friend says she was gifted with the idea of ancestral spirits. Does that fit with your definition? Is an idea a gift?
Yeah, it can be a gift. And you might say she did receive that gift from where I don't know, and maybe it didn't actually have a giver, but she got the gift and she was able to receive it. So yeah, I think.
That's a gift without a giver. That's an interesting thing too. So then someone says, can my presence be a gift?
Yeah, sure. That is, you're being there, even listening is a gift because it gives the other person a receiver. The person that is speaking has a receiver, and without the receiver, her gift could not be given. So there is a lot that goes on in giving and receiving that needs to be investigated and appreciated. So, yeah.
Yeah. Now this last question, it sounds like to me that there's a question of a constrained gift here, and maybe that's a big issue for you. But someone says, if someone gives me a birthday gift, do I have to give her one? Do I have to take a hostess gift when I'm invited for dinner? Is a tip a gift? I mean, are these constrained gifts?
Well, we live in a capitalist society in the world that's ruled by the market and exchange, quid pro quo exchange. So we are used to living in that world where everything is an exchange, where you don't get anything without having given something. And so things like a birthday gift really do kind of require an exchange to come back. It's not going to be a pure gift, probably, but it is a gesture of affection, and so on, and it's celebration of the other person. So the reciprocity of it's not a negative thing, but it is, let's say, framed within the exchange economy and not within the gift economy itself. So we're living in this capitalist market-based world, and our values have been framed by that a lot. So the gift economy values really have to kind of survive on their own within the individual and within the home. And then people can all the same participate in kinds of exchanges like that is of giving somebody a birthday gift and expecting one back. It's not, it's an exchange of gifts, but it's still a gift too.
That's very nicely put. Yeah.
Best we can do in the circumstances. No.
All right. Now I'll just mention for the audience who might have turned in late that your replies to these questions can be listened to after the event. on the website maternalgifteconomymovement.org. So, if you missed it, folks, you can go back and hear it. So in this salon, Jen, you're responding to questions and potential misconceptions about the meaning of the phrase maternal gift economy. And the third term in that phrase is perhaps the most distorted concept of our times. Somehow economy has been narrowly construed as only things that deal with money. Yet the economy of the world, and even that of us humans, is far more complex than that. So here's a short list of questions people are asking you, and it gets at some of the common biases about that word. So I'll just read them out and let you answer. So let's see. Okay, economy. Economy is defined as the production and consumption of goods and services. Is that what you're talking about when you talk about economy?
Well, it is mothering does produce goods and services. Mothers, first of all, I mean, if you're doing breastfeeding, your body is producing the goods, and the services are the maternal services. They're not based on exchange. They're based on unilateral giving between bodies, let's say. What was the second part that you said?
Oh, I think that you've answered it. It said,
Okay.
is that what you're talking about? So you've explained that. Okay.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Another definition is the process or system by which goods and services are produced, sold, and bought. That's the definition of the economy. So if that's the case, maybe gift economy is not an economy?
No, the gift economy is an economy that doesn't do that. It produces goods and services, but it also gives them free, and it's not based on exchange. And there's, the world is basically a gift economy. The nature is a gift, and our best personal relations are gifts. And the exchange economy or the market economy is a specific kind of social interaction that has been existing for the last like 1,500, 2,000 years since money was invented and so on. And before that, that was not the way people interacted. So they may have done other things that were not so great, like slavery and war, but the maternal economy has had to exist from the first prehistoric peoples. Otherwise, those little babies, those little prehistoric babies would not have survived if somebody hadn't taken care of them unilaterally.
Yeah, and we wouldn't be here having this fun talk on Zoom. Wow. Okay. So I don't know. So another person suggests a system of interrelated production and consumption activities that ultimately determine the allocation of resources within a group is a definition of economy. You don't have to respond to all of these. Or, and you've already explained that if you aren't dealing with exchange of money, it's a gift economy. Right.
It's the first economy. It is the norm. It is the human norm. The gift economy is. And the exchange economy and the market is the aberration from the norm. It's what's messing us up. And what we need to do is return to a maternal gift economy in everywhere. And with those values that come from the maternal gift economy, not the me first values of the exchange economy, which is also exploitative and also takes all of the gifts of free and low cost labor, of what Marx called surplus value, and uses those to create capital and greater and greater amounts of money and wherewithal.
Wow. Yeah. So the last question in this group, someone said, economic often means cheap. Is that what you're promoting it as? I don't think that's what you're promoting, but how does, you've kind of said something about how cheap relates to the dominant economy when you talk about the exploitation of labor. Want to say anything else about that?
Yeah, well, I mean, we use the word cheap, but we don't say that most of the that what it really means is that a lot of the work on that product was a gift to us, and that surplus value is a gift to the capitalist. And even the unwaged work in the home is gift work. So we've been defining these things, negatively in a way by saying it's cheap or unwaged, and instead that it has this other side of it, which is actually that it's free to somebody, and it may be exploited by the capitalist or whoever is the exploiter that takes that free thing and uses it for their own purposes. But it's still a gift, that even if it's a gift being exploited.
So you could say that the person who's exploited or the system that's exploited is having to give a constrained gift because they're giving more than they can afford, really.
They're giving without even realizing that it's giving. They're giving because they need a job in order to be able to survive. And so they're giving extra work in that job that goes as a gift to the owner or the capitalist. And so we don't call things by their gift names. We call them by other names, which disguises them from and doesn't let us see how the gifting really permeates everything.
Okay, let's take a breath here. And then, so the last term is movement, maternal gift economy movement. And you sent me a definition. I think you sent this. Movement definition, the action or process of moving passage from place to place or from one situation to another. Is that yours or did somebody else send that?
Somebody else sent that.
Okay, so what's your definition of movement?
Well, I think we're in a terrible situation now with the environmental devastation that's happened and happening, and with these terrible wars that are going on, just incredible slaughter, and the nuclear possibility, that's just the possible nuclear war kind of dangling on a string, and the rise of fascism now in the US and kind of worldwide. So what we need is movements that can offset all of that and possibly change it by an alternative way of looking at the world, behaving, valuing things, valuing ourselves and each other, creating community. All of that is what we need that's what I mean by a movement. And it means like the idea of people who have a different understanding of the way things are, that are not the part of the understanding of fascism or war-based patriarchy and so on, but a maternal movement of people who believe in, or at least allow for the possibility of the gift economy values. And we all have been mothered if we have survived. We've all been mothered when we were little. And so we all have that within us. And we have the basic, I call it the basic operating system that we have as human beings it comes from that early period of unilateral giving, receiving, and so on. And in many different stages and levels of life. So we can all return to that for our understanding and create this movement, trying to make change wherever we can.
Well, let's see. I'm just wondering about our time. I've got a little collection of questions that someone sent in about the movement, related to the movement definition. Shall I read them?
Sure. Whatever
Okay.
you think.
So I think these are all from the same person. I don't have her name here, but one, in a gift economy, value isn't tied to money or status, but to generosity and connection. How does the act of giving reshape our understanding of personal worth and identity?
Well, I think that when a mother gives to a child, she gives value to the child. That is, she recognizes that the child is valuable herself on her own. And that is a transfer not only of the gift, but of the valuation of the child. So it is an interpersonal affirmation of the other. Value in exchange is just a totally different thing.
Mm.
Because we are valuing some object in terms of money, and that it's the object that we give and get back the money, or vice versa. That it's the object that has the value, not the person.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank
So,
you. Okay, so second question, and then I heard a ding. I don't know if that means we're supposed to stop, but we'll just get to the end of these. Cash transactions often overlook deeper human longings. By asking this, we explore how acts of care, time, and attention nourish aspects of well-being that remain invisible in conventional markets. What hidden needs, emotional, social, or spiritual, can be met through gifts that money cannot buy?
a lot of them, and I, it's hard to say. It's hard to say what gifts, what good things money can buy. Money can only buy objects, or it can buy, I don't know, vacations, for example, that kind of thing. But money, or the market and gifting at this point in time are merged in many ways. So, if you get the money for and have for a vacation, you may be giving a gift to somebody of a vacation, or you and that person go on a vacation together, and that is a gift. But it's a gift within the system of the market, just like a birthday gift would be. So we do continue to do gifting within the market. It's not that we don't ever do that. But what we need to do is diminish the whole market structure and bring forward the gift structure that has other values that are not the values, not the ego-oriented values that the market has.
Okay, so last question in that group, and this will be the last question. Gift economies risk becoming one-sided or burdensome if expectations aren't clear. This question probes the structures and norms needed to sustain genuine reciprocity without coercion. How might we build systems of giving and receiving that honor everyone's dignity and prevent exploitation?
Well, I think that from within the market economy, we don't really see gifting in its best way. We can't really see it because we're limited by the concepts of gift that there are in the market. And we would have to work towards doing things and experiment on doing things with gifting without the market. And people are doing that. There are people that are living money free, and they're living in eco villages and so on. They don't realize that there is a maternal gift economy underneath that has anything to do with mothering, but they are doing that, gifting economies with one another experimentally in the gift villages.
Wow. Let's see, did I have anything else to say, or are we really at the end? Okay, that's the end of what I have to say, and I certainly have learned a few things that even I didn't know, and I've known you for nearly 40 years. But I really appreciate you so much. And this concept, I think the movement is obviously growing because people are signing on to ask their own questions. And I know, maybe I'll just ask you this before we finish, and that is that you've planted seeds of gift economy all over the world, I think. And I just wanted to know if you might mention some of the places where you've gone to talk about this and it took root.
Oh, well, I live part-time in Italy, and so I've been able to talk about the gift economy here, and also in the US. I live in the US too, some of the time, and people do invite me to speak at conferences and things, and so I've been doing that for a long time. The first thing I did that was kind of major was that I helped to do the something called the Peace Tent in Nairobi at the World UN Conference on Women in 1985. And that was a wonderful space where women were able to speak to each other from countries that were at war with each other. So the women made peace and talked and discussed things themselves. And that was an example of women's peacemaking and women's capacity for that. And that happened, there were quite a few of those interviews and things. And over the years, we did this Foundation for a Compassionate Society, which had a lot of different people doing different great things, anti-nuclear work, environmental work, and just various social change projects. So, and then as time has gone on, I've been invited to speak a lot of places, and I always go. Maybe not always, but most of the time. Now I'm 85, and so I'm not traveling as well as I used to. But yeah, people everywhere, not everybody, but a lot of the people that I do talk to, especially women, do get the idea and do want to be part of this movement. It's not a movement in the sense that you have to be a card-carrying gift economy person. It's a movement in the sense that there's a commonality of desire for change and a commonality of understanding to try of ways to possibly make this change, because we are being tremendously oppressed, everybody, by the market and the values of the market of exchange, which are values that are ego-oriented. And some of our politicians now are really big examples of that. And we need to change all that if we're going to survive as a human race. And if many of the other animals and creatures of the planet are going to survive it. So we really need a change, and we really need a different perspective that is not the perspective of the market.
Thank you. I'll turn over the floor to the moderators, and I'm sure they'll ask you lots of other questions, but I appreciate your answers very much.
Thank you so much, Frieda. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Frieda. Thank you, Jen. I noticed in Frieda's notes, Jen, she did ask you to say more about your gift paradigm. You could say more of what that looks like to you. You've said, if we change from the market and gift economy, market to the gift economy paradigm, the maternal gift economy paradigm. As an individual person, how has that shift happened in me as a paradigm shift? What would I be doing differently then? Is there a different emphasis on the value of money? How does that work?
I think that's true. I look at indigenous societies that didn't have market exchange, and how they were able to, and still are, many of them, able to have a perfectly good life without having a market. And it is a problem. How do you go from one to the other in your own personal life? Really, we have to think of it as a social change, not just individual change. We have to understand as individuals that there are problems with the exchange economy, and try to do things free for one another, and satisfy other people's needs. And that can be even just being friendly, or, if somebody looks sad, you can smile at them, or this can be little things as well as big things. And there are lots of ways that people are already trying to do this. Like I said, the eco villages, but also that buy nothing movement. And I think the transition towns, and so on, but they don't realize that underneath they are already, doing maternal gifting. That's what it already is. So I think maybe that when we have a desire to satisfy somebody's need, we can realize that's a gift desire, and a desire to give a gift. I've tried to show that, for example, language is based on giving and receiving. And other parts of life too, that we don't ever even imagine or have anything to do with giving, really are, if we want to use those glasses to see the gift, rather than the exchange glasses that make us just see things as objects, and relationships between objects and things, and people as kind of objects too. So how do we know? We just try to understand the gifting side of life and make it more important, give value to it, because valuing something is also giving value to things. So we give value to gifting instead of giving value to exchange. It's a big ball of yarn that needs to be seen in many different places and many different viewpoints.
Thank you, Jen. I just want to remind people that there is a react button, and in this format, you'll be able to be unmuted to actually voice your own question. We've had 2 questions that have come into the chat, so I'm going to check in with Liliana, and I see that we have 1 hand raised. So I'm going to go to 1 question with Liliana, and then I'm going to come back to Angela Miles. So Liliana.
Yes, I have a question from Lyra Delora, and she says, does currency have a place in the gift economy? If so, how could we refashion our relationship with it?
Well, I think currency would be, or money, would have to be transitional, seen as transitional towards a gift economy. That would be the way of using it. Because the whole issue of money and quantifying everything and then trying to make more money is a kind of a corrupting thing. And we've seen how corrupting it can be when you're making lots and lots of it. So I think that in the end, we would not, if we succeed in having a gift economy, a society based on gifting and receiving, we would not have money.
Thanks, Jen. I think that just to recap a bit, one of the things that you mentioned to tie in mothering, motherer, the maternal gift economy, it has a lot to do with the need, recognizing a need and giving unilaterally. As an example, one of the things that Frieda brought up is when somebody gives you a gift that you don't need, because one of the other things that you said is that in the maternal gift economy, part of what happens in giving and receiving, it builds a relationship. And so the relationship has primary value over the object itself that's given. Although unilaterally, when a mother gives what she does with her breast milk, etc., it actually is the thing that is needed by the child for life. So the other thing that you didn't actually say was that oftentimes gifting to support life rather than gifting to get something or to anything else. And that was interesting to me, that you linked gifting with relationship, community, although you didn't put it together in phrases, but as you were speaking with Frieda, those pieces came together as a unifying force of the underlying relationship of our humanity. That's what we do. And when we operate from that place of unilateral giving and receiving from the place of need, imagine no war, because we're not fighting for resources. Now, that was the thought that came to me at the end of all the things that you were saying. And I can see even more possibility for peace, but maybe I'm just a Pollyanna. So let's go.
Well, I don't think it's you're a Pollyanna. I think it really is that we have the exchange economy, that we have the capitalism promotes war and promotes retaliation, which is an exchange. That's how it works. Not giving or giving up is seems like it's the bad thing. So you don't have a peacemaking for the good of the other. You just have your own ego, even if it's a national ego that wants to prevail. And so that is the difference between capitalism and the maternal gift economy.
Wonderful. Thank you. All right. So Angela Miles, if you can unmute, you have a couple of minutes, 2 minutes, to actually just form your question so that Jen can speak and we can take as many questions as possible.
Yeah, I'm really excited to be reminded with this conversation here of just some incredible gift I think I can pass on. When I met Jen and heard this, it was really, really incredible. But the thing that really, really made it clear for me was when I saw exchange, what exchange was. There's a lot of questions about the puzzle about what is gift. And they're coming through a very distorted lens because we're within an exchange paradigm trying to figure out how we could see or understand gift in that paradigm. And actually, seeing exchange makes it quite simple that the basic human relationship and economy they're not separate. They're one whole thing, and they're gift. Gift flows to need. And we all participate because we have something to give or we need something. It is quite simple, and it's the relationship to nature, to each other, men and women, children and adults. Really, really basic. And that's the world and how it is before gender and class hierarchy. And the gender hierarchy made a gender that wasn't gift. And that was the dominant one that was defined as the human one, and women in nature ever after have had to be controlled and denied and handcuffed. And the first class societies, the first patriarchal class societies were by force, and they were feudal, or they were some other one of those kind of things. And the bourgeois national and nationalist and economic revolutions made it exchange. Exchange is now the way that the gender and the classes dominate in most places.
Okay, Angela,
And
that's 2 minutes. Can you wrap up?
Okay, so the point isn't how complex gift is and it's how do we get rid of the distortions and the handcuffs and the blindness that exchange dominance, the hegemony of exchange in our ideas and our world works. So that's it. I mean, it's not gift that has to be explained. It's like, what is this fucking market?
Thank you.
Jen.
No, I was just saying, yeah, I agree. It's very important to be able to criticize the market and see it for what it is, but we don't even know there's an alternative. We don't even know there's a gift economy that's being actually exploited by the market and that we're part of, and that is our birthright. And when we do find that out, that is really important, and we can criticize the market better, because if you believe there's no alternative, if you believe that the world is a market, you're not going to see what's wrong. And the market is what has brought us to this terrible place, plus patriarchy, that the two together.
Thanks, Jen. Patricia, I see your hand up. I'm going to go to Liliana because we've had several questions come into the chat. So Liliana, can you read one of those questions, and I'll come back to you, Patricia.
I have a question from Patricia Hurd. And she says, I tend to think that quid pro quo or exchange does not necessarily have to be a problem. It begins to become a problem when it is no longer done voluntarily, becoming abusive and mingled with the idea of profit. In our complex systems that are based on the idea of ownership, competition, and hierarchy, and profit, in a sense of getting back more than we have given, Profit in a sense of claiming to be more valuable and powerful and richer than others. Profit in a sense of fulfilling needs at the expense of others. What do you think about this, to Jen?
Yeah, well, I agree with your criticism of profit, but I think that exchange itself changes the paradigm from looking at the need and satisfying it and giving value to the other person by that satisfaction of their need, while exchange is a question of quantifying what you've given in order to get back. And so it's a much more ego-oriented interaction. And you are quantifying what you've given, and you want an equal exchange. You're not giving it freely to satisfy the need. But then, there are times when being able to exchange to get something you really need is actually a gift. You can imagine, being in a place where there is famine and that you have a little money and you can get something to eat for yourself or your children. I mean, you're dependent on exchange, but that actual possibility of being able to exchange is a gift that you are receiving sort of from the environment or the universe. So, I mean, we can see moments of gift within the exchange economy, but it's really, we need to keep the two separate.
Thank you,
so
Jen.
we can understand them better.
Thank you. Okay, Patricia, can you unmute yourself?
Yeah, well, I've known everything is upside down and backwards since I was a teenager. And for that reason, I was expelled out of school in grade 10, but rebellious. Anyway, I made up for it and got through university. This book is a life changer. Thank you. And yesterday I went to the printer and got Heidi's description, explanation, how to. It's a how-to document, the way into an egalitarian society, principles of matriarchal politics. So I got this printed so that people can read it and study it. And it's exactly the way that the culture that I live between 4 native bands, and I work with them. And an 87-year-old elder from the Nisconnet Indian band and I are building a grandmother's village here where I live. Yeah, we have a couple of teepees, we've got sweat lodges, we have a pit house, we've got an elder's hut, and we have workshops, where we invite people to come and learn. And the way that Heidi has described how to make this work is the way it was described to me by the local people here. Because my first question when I started discussing, how do we fix everything? The first thing that was explained to me was how the societies worked prior to colonization. And so there it is, and here it is. And so do I have permission to share these without asking anybody? Can I just share things out of the book?
Yeah.
Reprint and share?
I
There's
think
no
you need
copyright.
you need to ask
Huh?
Heidi. Ask Heidi. If it's Heidi's material, don't you think you need to ask Heidi directly?
That's what I'm asking.
Right, you're asking us, but we didn't write it. So you need to ask
No.
the author.
So I now I have your advice. Thank you.
Right.
I'll see if I can
Is
get
that
in
your
touch.
question?
Yes,
Jen?
and I guess I don't know how to get in touch with her, but maybe I can find out.
I'll put it in the chat for you.
Thank you very much. Okay, bravo, everybody. We're getting there. We're getting somewhere. Beautiful.
Thanks, Patricia.
Thank you.
Jen, did you have any comments about what she said?
Yeah, Patricia, would you write something, or if you have something written already about the project that you're doing, and send it to us? Can't hear you.
Is she shaking her head? Yes.
Oh,
She'll send
okay,
it to
great,
us.
great.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jen. Liliana, I see that there are questions that keep coming into the chat. Would you care to read one off?
Liliana, you need to unmute.
Why is money not part of a gift economy? If money is our collective totem and used to oppress the people, yet in poverty of resources, money is what helps the poor people get out of poverty.
Okay. Well,
Jen, you need to unmute.
okay. I think that money as part of the exchange system of the market and capitalism is a way of, it quantifies needs and gifts and moves us into a different part of our minds, into a way in which we calculate quantities of value rather than satisfying needs and giving value to people. And capitalism is built on that quantification and on that different mindset that money brings with it. So I think that that is the problem, that money is a big problem. It is it's a huge symbol, kind of like, almost a religious symbol. And it needs to be dismantled. Because it's also patriarchal. It's a symbol and a instrument of power over people. So I think when we have a gift economy that's generalized to everybody, we can do without money. We do have to do it without money. During the time while we're waiting for that to happen and trying to cause social change, we can also use money in a positive way to help each other. But until that, and what we're working towards, even using this negative instrument, let's say, we are using it in a positive way to get towards something without money. So it's a puzzle how to get from one society that's in deep trouble into a society that's working for everybody there.
Thanks, Jen. All right, I don't see any hands up, so I'm going to go back to Liliana. I still see that there are questions there.
Yes, I have the questions.
Okay.
From Marta Quintero, what do you think about that when we started as a feminist, we worked too much without payment, pro bono. And at that time, we had a lot of discussions about the feminists going to work to the ONGs and at the government. And there are still some feminists that criticize feminist payments. Jan?
Well, I think that what has happened is with feminism a lot is that women have been assimilated into the capitalist system and gotten into that as success. And it has shown that women are equal to men, that we can do anything that men can do. But what we're doing is we're part of an exploitative system. And we need to change the system itself to make it a maternal system instead of a patriarchal capitalist exploitative system. And so that I hope that feminism can become more maternal, even though there has been a real prejudice against mothering within feminism, at least in the so-called West. And because it seems to think that mothering means that all women are mothers or have to be mothers and so on. Actually, I think all people are mothers. And so what I'm trying to say is that that is the basic human way, is the unilateral giving maternal way. And that we are what I call homo donans instead of homo sapiens, because we don't even know who we really are. And the homo donans means the giving being. We're a maternal species. So yeah, that's what I kind of think about feminism, is that we need to generalize it to show that mothering is a species quality or action, and not violence, and not quid pro quo, not war, which is what it seems like now.
Thanks, Jen. I see Ursula, you have your hand up. Would you, Ursula, unmute? There you go.
Yes, thanks very much. This is very, very exciting and interesting. And I was just thinking, I started working as a feminist activist mid-70s in London, and it was perfectly all right. We did everything without money. We didn't want to have anything to do with money. We had little jobs to sort of, supply for the basic needs for ourselves. We had a women's center. We did a lot of things. We were very, very active, and there was no discussion or question about the money. And then it started at the sort of mid-80s, it started to say, oh, well, we have to get money for what we are doing. And I was so against it from the emotional point of view. And if we had had this theory of maternal gift economy at that point, I think it would have been so much easier to carry on the activities, because what happened in the course of the last 30 years till now, before now, everything got commercialized, even the feminist movement. The young people nowadays would never do anything without being paid for it. Like in my circle in Berlin and Germany, it's really, really hard for young women to do anything without being paid for it. And that's really, really difficult for me, because I'm trying, to sort of give a bridge to the gift economy, but it's really hard. But thanks for having had the thought again.
Thank you.
Jen, do you have any ideas about that?
Well, yeah, and it's a question of changing values. We have to change the values and show people that really equality equality within and with a terrible, negative, damaging system is not where we want to go. We want to make the gift economy, or the way of caring for each other without an exchange, as the paradigm for everybody, and not have these two, exchange paradigm and gift paradigm, one taking from the other all the time, which is what the exchange paradigm does.
Thanks, Jen. I'm just going to read this question that sort of relates to what you were just talking about. It's from Lyra, and she says, does currency have a place in the gift economy? If so, how do we refashion our relationship with it?
I think that currency is only, should only be used as a sort of ladder to step down from the capitalism to the gift economy for everybody. That is, it's just an instrument to use along the way for social change, not something that we're going to use forever once we get to the gift economy.
Makes sense, because it's not the thing that's valued or the measure of what is valued in relationship to what it means to be human. Money is not the measure of value for a human being. Makes sense. All right. I see Susan Petrilli has her hand up. Hi, Susan. Good to see you. Could you unmute, please?
Yes, hi. It's lovely seeing you all, actually. Yeah, so I just want thinking about what has just been sort of said about, for example, young people not willing to do anything if they're not paid. But isn't that to be expected if we think that, I mean, this is the whole problem. All of life has been englobed in the market. This is what globalization is. As much as it might become multipolarism, but the fact is the general ideology converges with the market. Everything has been englobed. Education is englobed by the market. It's shocking what they're doing with universities. And this happened decades ago. And now in Italy, where I live, I say that we've reached American levels 30 years later, where anything you do at the university, research is a function of the market. Until not long ago, we were better off simply because the government was financing research. There was no question of looking for finance outside the university in the market. Today, everything has been Americanized or globalized, Australianized. Research, people doing, if we want to do research, we have to look for the finances. We have to look at the market. So that just shows you, how the market logic is penetrating education, but it's penetrated everything. It penetrates communication. Even, I don't know, social media, which is about communication. It's all
2 minutes,
on.
Susan. That's 2 minutes. If you could wrap it up. Thank you.
Oh, well, I don't have anything to wrap up, actually. I'll just say mothering also. I really agree what you say, Jen, about the mothering issue, that you said, we're all mothers, all motherers. And I agree with that. And I think we need to underline that. Because that's about nurturing, that's about this capacity for otherness that we are all born with, and that gets destroyed and hidden and eaten away by market logic, by globalization. And it's a very difficult time now, because now politics, if it was hidden before, the relationship with politics was with business and the market was hidden, today it's just blatant, isn't it? Look at America. It's the businessmen who, and not only in America, but it's the businessmen who own politics, Yeah.
Thank you, Susan.
Jen, do you have anything you want to comment?
I agree. And I think that this generalization or this universalization of the exchange way is really leading us to the end of the world. So we need to have a completely other approach, which is the approach of the gift economy, and stop believing in the market and stop believing that it's going to solve problems. In fact, it's just a poison that's bringing us to the very end. I'm sorry to be so negative, but that's the way I see it.
Okay, thanks, Jen. Liliana, did you have a question?
Yes, from
And then,
Marta
and then,
Giraldo, how would the gift economy be measured in terms of development? What about that new accountability needed? Have you moved into that?
How about what? I didn't understand.
I can read the question again.
Yeah.
How would the gift economy be measured in terms of development? What about the new accountability needed? Have you moved into that?
No, not really. I think that the development initiatives that are taken by the global north towards the global south are usually exchanges. They're usually made to bring the riches of the south into the north and to subjugate the people of the south to make them give more to the people in the north. So I'm very wary of the kinds of development that the World Bank and that kind of thing have done, even though they have created some good situations. But the trouble is that we're trying to heal ourselves with poison. It does. We're using a defective way of communicating and giving that doesn't work, and for everybody, and it also harms. So if it does work, it usually harms too. So I think that that the development projects have maybe kept the social change from actually happening.
yes, because the development as it's defined by those organizations are within the exchange economy. So it only is developed to support the exchange economy to continue to exist, if I understand you correctly, Jen. Yeah. Yeah.
And get wider, increase, yeah, where it wasn't before.
Right, exactly. All right, I see Angela D. Angela Domich has her hand up. Angela, can you unmute? There you go.
Yes. I just want to tell you, I mean, just when somebody said that the young people don't want to do anything, they don't get paid. It's interesting what has happened, for instance, in Achira, because originally the houses, 88 houses were free. Practically, they didn't have to pay for the houses. So the whole community started living on that principle that the houses had been free. So therefore, within the community, I mean, for instance, we have young people doing our web page. They don't ask for to be paid. They are doing the web page. There are all people, for instance, who do you know, somebody, for instance, know how to, there's somebody who is a nurse, so if somebody gets ill, well, she goes and look after that person. And since it is an open door sort of community, well, then, you know, if you have nobody to look after your children, well, the children are going to be looked up by the other mothers, and they don't charge for it. Obviously, as outside, I mean, when we do things for outside, when people come and visit, I mean, the people from outside get charged, but people within the community, they don't get charged. And young people, for instance, I mean, at this moment, we have 6, 7, 8 professional people who actually have gone to university. Somehow, some of them, none of them, obviously, we have managed to get them a scholarship so that they didn't have to pay for it. But for instance, if somebody needs a lawyer, and there's a lawyer there, she will go and help, and is not going to charge. And in the same way, we have had what we call the time bank. The time bank is that people who want to help Nachira, who are professionals, who are either psychologists or lawyers I mean, you know, people who do well, you know, people who come, for instance, like the people who are teaching us to do all that has to do with solar energy and all that.
That's 2 minutes, Angela. Can you wrap up, please?
They do come and they don't charge, you know, and they don't charge because they belong to a time bank. They are giving the time free, and they are happy to give the time free. So even if they are not part of Nachira, they know that when they come there, they give the time free, they don't charge. So within the community, we do manage to give the community. Obviously, when we do things for outside, when people come and visit us, you know, and they come and eat there, well, then they have to charge. For instance, we have the restaurant, which is you know is the community restaurant where.
Thank you, Angela.
Jen, did you have anything that you wanted to
Oh, yeah,
comment? Yeah.
I just wanted to say that Angela started an eco village in Colombia, and that's what she's talking about. Nashira, that's what she was talking about, is this eco village with, I think, 88 houses and 150 people, all based on women's leadership, women's that are the leaders of the community, and a few men still.
But originally, the houses were free. I mean, it started with free houses. They didn't have to pay for the houses. You see, so that made a big difference. These 88 women didn't have to pay for the houses because I mean, you know, I mean, we succeeded in getting the gift, part of the gift from private people, but the rest of the gift from the government. So basically, they started having houses where they didn't have to pay for it.
Thanks, Angela D. I think also one of the things that is important, although Angela did not articulate it, that the values of Nashira are based in the maternal gift economy and modern matriarchal studies. So when Jen was identifying a paradigm shift, a change in values, at the onset of the development of Nashira, those values were used to frame the relationships, interactions, and engagement in that community itself. So it's, as an individual, it's very difficult to do it one-on-one. I see that Paula has her hand up. Paula, would you like to unmute?
Yes, thank you. I reached you very late because I'm grandmothering, but I think this polarization, I want to underline something so I know enough the theory and I think enough of the theory. So I didn't hear the beginning, but there is in a way, it's an optimistic message in these horrors. There is a polarization of values today. And Gaza was in a way a symptom of this and is going to continue on that. So the students, the young people, it's not true anymore that all are towards the market. There is this polarization of values, and Gaza was an enormous catalyst of that. I see that, and perhaps I am too much with these echo people, but I see the young people seeing the lethality, the mortal influence of money on these rich oligarchs. And so this polarization opened the way. I think there will be a catastrophe. And in that catastrophe, the gift economy will be the only hook to survive. So at that point, the gift will go with the values that the market sells to people as the true survival tools. I don't know if I'm clear on that. This is one thing. The second thing is that I have always had problems with maternal sacrifice. And you know, the reason why feminism was critical of the maternality was the sacrifice element of motherhood that feeds the market because it's unseen, unpaid, and unvalued. So I reached this conclusion that the enemy is not the motherhood, is the enemy is that the motherhood cannot put the accent in the unilaterality only, but in the fact that mothers do things differently, nurture differently. So all the values around motherhood are more than unilaterality giving. Are
2 minutes, Paula, you could wrap up.
I'm closing, I'm finishing. Are giving in a way that comes back in another thing, in a form of nurturing, which is giving. And people that are doing this gift economy today are seeing that. So the Mother Earth is becoming a value as motherer, not as nurturing as a woman only. I don't know if I'm clear on that, but we can continue that.
Thanks, Paula. Jen, thoughts?
Yeah, well, yes, I agree. But I think the problem and the sacrifice of women to be mothers is due to the context of the market, of the exchange economy that creates a scarcity that makes it impossible to give unilaterally, or at least very difficult. And so the women sacrifice because they don't want to stop nurturing their children. And they keep doing it, but the problem is not them. And the problem is the context that they're doing it in. And so but it's hard to see that, when you're just looking at it from the market perspective, you say, oh, those women are silly because they're doing this. They're self-sacrificing. They're masochistic, blah, blah. But it's not that they would choose to be that. They do it because in the scarcity that the market creates, they have to if they want to keep their children alive.
Thanks, Jen. Thank you. Liliana, I want to check in with you and see if there's a question that you want to highlight from the chat.
Yes, from Lyra Delora. She asked, what is the relationship of the gift economy to socialism and the social goals of the Enlightenment?
Well, I think that the basis of socialism and communism is an analysis of the market that shows how negative it is, and a desire for a change and making something different, so and better. So that's the relation of the gift economy to socialism and communism. But those things do not have mothering. They didn't even think of mothering. I mean, not that, I mean, they didn't think of mothering as a paradigm or as a free unilateral giving as a paradigm. They thought of it as trying to help mothers, but not as of trying to imitate mothers or follow that example, let's say. And I think that, as far as I know, the Enlightenment had some general human values, but that was not, mothering was not part of that either. It just seems to me that for so many centuries, mothers have not been allowed to participate in the elaboration of the ideology of academia, you know, and it was all done by men for so many years up until maybe 200 years ago, if that. And so men just didn't consider mothering. There was such a divide between men and women as to jobs that people were supposed to have, or privileges, like the privilege of education. But if we begin to think about matriarchal societies, they would have had a completely different kind of academia, you know, if they had been allowed to continue as such up until now. Yeah. Well.
Thanks, Jen. Thank you. Yes, I think one of the things that this part of our conversation has brought up is, you know, here we are in the United States at this critical state with our Constitution. And some of you know that Genevieve and I participated in a starter series with the Haudenosaunee women, in which our Constitution was based on. And they informed us that the structure of the United States Constitution, with the three bodies of equal power, was taken. The one thing that they didn't take, the most critical thing that was foundational, was mother law. And they meant that in reference to their matriarchy as a democracy that's 1,000 years old, as they say. And they also refer that to the law of the land, which translates to nature for most of the Western world. So that is one of the things that I think we need to take a look at, was that most of the modern world did not have the earth and women originally written into their charters about how the world would work, and also don't have women involved in an egalitarian way in the ruling of the states. That's something that we need to help change that paradigm. Liliana, I see you've unmuted.
Yes.
Yes. Let's wait. Jen, did you have something you wanted to say to that?
Yeah, I did just want to mention that the fact that Native people have survived, and have survived with their values, in spite of the terrible genocides that have been done to them, is very hopeful for us, that they have survived, because they give us an example of gift economies, or economies that are not based in the market and exchange. So we still have that example before us, where the maternal economy has been absorbed into the society as a whole, and we can do that. We did not succeed in exterminating the maternal societies, so we can take them as our example, as women and as people who want a different world.
And embrace them in our movement, in solidarity, for sure. Absolutely. Oh, thank you, Jen. Liliana.
Okay, from Jody Ancient, and she says, it's more like a comment. On Vancouver Island, the gifting momentum is apparent in warm circles. I would like to start a small rural proactive community with the intention to begin the full maternal gifting momentum. I would like to work with like-minded souls on this concept. Much gratitude for your wisdom.
Wonderful.
Then I have a comment from Bob. Bob, on Vancouver Island, this is Bob of Eve and Bob. It's good to see you here on this webinar. Can we meet in person to talk about your plans? And then he adds, I find it astonishing that I'm the only caller on this webinar with a male first name.
Well, Bob, we would like to encourage you to invite your male friends to actually come and join us.
We do have some other male friends of our own that come once in a while, and just they haven't come this time. But
And I also see that Rebecca has a male person in the background there. I see his face. She's showing him on the screen. So thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
Yes, I hope Bob and Rebecca, could you just type in the chat what your male friend's name is so that we can know who he is? That we hope that you identify, if you haven't already, as motherers, because that's what we need in the world, people who embark on changing their value systems and support them. Hein, nice to see you. Thank you for joining us. You're welcome anytime. All right, I'm checking the time. Jen or Frieda, is there something that you would like to close with, or another question or any comments that you might have while we were listening to these answers?
Can you see me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
You're beautiful.
Oh, okay, thanks. So, no, I enjoyed the interview that we did, and I enjoyed the questions. They really stretched my mind, the comments and the questions, and this has been a good experience. And thank you, everybody. Fun.
Jen, what about you? Any questions or comments that you have you'd like to offer?
Yeah, well, I'm very pleased that we did this. I'd like to do it again sometime. And we really have to make the changes. You know, we can do it. We're here now. We happen to be born at this period of time, and we can make it. We can make changes. And the people of the future will be grateful if we can. And
What?
if we can't, there might not be any future. So I'm sorry to be so drastic, but I think it is a time like that.
Thanks, Jen. I think Liliana has one last comment she'd like to offer from the chat.
From Peggy Antrobus. She says, I think it is important to point out that to the extent to which the situation we find ourselves today, planetary collapse, resource wars, increased inequality, and the rule of oligarchs is the result of the devaluation of all the values of the maternal gift economy.
Yeah, and that means that by reviving the maternal gift economy values, we can make that change. We can, that's what will heal it.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jen. Thank you, Liliana. And thank you, Peggy, for those last words. Well, we're coming to the top of the hour. Angela D., do you have something short that you wanted to offer? I need to try to close us out.
I just want to ask a question. How can you make that change? How can we make it the change? How could we, from the movement that we are creating, make the change?
We can change our values towards the gift economy. We can understand the gift economy. We can understand the market and all of the negative things it's doing, and realize that we are not that we are homodonons. We're a maternal species, and that we can act that way. And we have to. We have to if we're going to survive. The planet can't go on this way anyway. So just, do the gifting and gift to the gift economy. Let other people know that there is this alternative.
Yes, one way of doing, changing the paradigm is to share this particular salon. And we're very fortunate to have Diane, who will usually has our recordings up by Monday, which means that any of you in this room can share this, a link to this video at our website that can be seen for free, also on YouTube, and begin to have the conversation. People don't change their minds without some kind of dialogue. It is not about debating them about what's right or wrong, or arguing with them about a point. It's about allowing them to really, as Jen says, listen. Language is about giving and receiving. So it's about really being present with what is being offered, and it's being offered as a gift. So I would just want to thank Frieda and Genevieve for all of your wonderful words today, stimulating our thoughts and our thinking. I want to thank each of you who've actually commented in the chat and sent in questions. I want to thank Liliana for, browsing through the chat, because sometimes it gets a little confusing about all the words that are there, and try to pull out the best and the most succinct things that we could actually answer in our time in this window. Just so that you know, any comments or questions that are in the chat will be sent to both Frieda and Jen so that they can read them later on. If you've never been a speaker on a chat, you may not understand that oftentimes they don't have time to actually be reading what you're writing in the chat, and you say some very interesting things. So they will be able to do that. I want to just let you know that in a week from today, we are really excited to have Barbara Alice Mann back in our Zoom. She's going to do a special event about her book. Her new book will be coming out. That is next Saturday, May the 24th. The title of the book, Indigenous Struggles in the United States, The Divide, Conquer Strategy of Federal Recognition. It is a challenge for Indigenous people all over the world, and you can imagine what that's like in the way that we've had to discuss the difference between the exchange economy, market economy, and the maternal gift economy in which they live. So I'm excited to hear what she has to say. 2 weeks from today, I'm a little excited to be able to say this. Our 81st Salon will be happening 2 weeks from today, which is Saturday, May 31st. Please join us for our 81st Salon. Watch our website for more information on that. And please, at our website, maternalgifteconomymovement.org, if you haven't already signed up to be notified when our salons and special events come up, please do sign up for that. We are so thrilled to have you as part of the maternal gift economy crew going forward. We want you to be disruptors, resistors, inspirers, and motherers. So all of you, please enjoy the rest of your weekend. We look forward to seeing you next week or in 2 weeks. We're always available for questions. So if you have any questions or comments, you can write to us at maternalgifteconomy@gmail.com. All right, everyone, please take really good care. And I know that you're doing everything that you can to bring this movement forward. Peace. Bye for now.
Thank you.